Kia ora koutou and welcome to today's Friday live that's actually on a Thursday because it's Easter tomorrow, but let's face it, I don't think anybody knows what day of the week it actually is right now. And apologies for also, you'll see that I don't actually have a hairdresser in my bubble, and my hair, I've noticed as lockdown is continuing, much like probably a few of you, things like our hair has started to become out of control. So halfway through lockdown, so I thought I'd check in, see how we're all going and offer some reflections on the last 2 weeks and the world as we find it now, because I think like many business owners, and particularly those of you in roles within businesses, you'll have found over the last couple of weeks that we've had to change things, we've had to pivot, we've had to think about doing things differently, we've had to plan for the future. And I know for me, a lot of what I do is in person, a lot of the conferences, events I do, it has caused a rethink around how can I still meet the needs of the people that I serve in this environment that we find ourselves. And that requires us adjusting, evolving, looking to the future, doing things differently, but also being comfortable with uncertainty, which is often uncomfortable. And we face this uncertainty now around, we all talk, now we're halfway through our lockdown, we all talk about when will it be over, when do we get out? And there's an uncertainty around that as well. There's so much about this situation, but many other life situations that we don't actually have that much control over. And there's a lot of things that we might find resistance in ourselves coming up against. So lockdown is a prime example, but even in daily life, when we're not in these extreme circumstances, things like the weather, the work that we do, we can often find a resistance to, I don't want things to be this way. I want to do something different. I want something else. I don't want to be on lockdown right now. I don't want the weather to be windy and wet. Whatever it is, there's this resistance sometimes that we want things to be different to that they are. And one of the lessons I've learned over the years is around acceptance, particularly acceptance around the things that we cannot change and this going with the flow. So rather than trying to fight it, this acceptance of this is where I find myself right now and this is how I'm showing up. And if I can't change that, then I may as well accept it and go with the flow, because otherwise it's going to cause me a lot more hardship going forward in terms of my health, in terms of my mood, in terms of how I feel. And of course, lockdown's a great example. If you've stood in a queue at the supermarket today, getting your Easter shopping and then found there's no hot cross buns left, you might find that you want things to be other than how they are, and this resistance to that is not how I planned it to be, I want it to be different. But if we can't change it, the only choice we have left is to accept it. And I think that's something worth considering as we head into our second week of lockdown. We need to adjust, we need to evolve, we need to do things differently, but there will also be things we can't change that we need to accept. So I want to leave you with that thought for your Easter weekend. Remember as well, if you're working from home, that tomorrow, Friday, is Easter. We have a long weekend, and I know that we can't do a huge amount with it, but that might just be a good thing. So I've spoken to a few people who are planning some home retreats over the Easter period, and many travel plans that may have now gone awry. But whatever you're doing at Easter, remember that it is a public holiday. Log off your computer, have a long weekend and enjoy it at home and take some time to just be. That's certainly what I'll be doing, hopefully indulging in a few hot cross buns as well. Other stuff that's happening and other news, this is, I'm holding in my hand, the proof copy of the new book. So the Superwoman Survival Guide is coming out, and it'll be about 3-ish weeks, depending on lockdown arrangements and what happens at the print factory. So it is here, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you. Now I can actually physically hold it, and it actually exists as a book. The launch will be early May, and it will be online because we're not quite sure yet whether we'll be allowed to gather in great numbers come May. So to be on the safe side, we'll be online. But what that means is technically it's a book launch in every city across the world, because everybody will be able to attend the online version. Other than that, next week on Wednesday evening, I have a webinar that's running. It's half price. I'll pop the link in this live. It's half price. All my webinars at the moment are half price to reflect the current situation we find ourselves in and make them more accessible. And the webinar that we're looking at next week on Wednesday is specifically around resilience. That stuff that I've just talked about how do we accept the things that we cannot change? How do we get comfortable with uncertainty, and how do we evolve and adapt as our world changes, because we're seeing a real life version of that happening now. So if you're keen, please jump on the booking link, book your place, they're half price. Have a fabulous Easter weekend. Mā te wā.